Welcome to the show. Today we are talking about shift workers and night shift workers and their lifestyles. Maybe you work late into the night. Maybe you're a nurse, for example. Maybe you've got peculiar hours where you wake up in the middle of the day and you work during the night. Or maybe that's not supposed to happen, but you're running a business. Or quite frankly, you've got insomnia and you're up until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. Maybe you work from home and you're waking up at ungodly hours, or what most people might consider to be an ungodly hour. Today, we're going to be talking about what you can and maybe shouldn't do when it comes to morning routines and nighttime routines as it relates to sleep and as it relates to alcohol. And I'm joined by Emma Smith, who is a registered nurse and the co-founder of The Other Shift, which is a website to help shift workers live a happier life. Emma, thank you for sharing your guidance with us here today. Welcome.
No worries. Thank you, James. Thank you very much for having me on.
Now, The Other Shift is designed to help shift workers essentially live a happier life. How did this come about? You were a shift worker, you were suffering. What was the catalyst for this?
Yeah, so I've been a registered nurse for 10 years. This is my 10th year. And my husband and I moved to America just to experience, life in a different country and to experience different culture. And I needed, well, quite frankly, just to be honest, I needed to make some money. And I thought I couldn't get my nursing registration. And I thought, what can I do to maybe, one, keep myself busy, but what could I do to help other people who are maybe living the shift working lifestyle but are struggling to sleep and to meal prep properly and to just be a happy person around the people that they love, so they're not angry and aggressive to those who they love because they're sleep deprived. So I thought my husband and I got our thinking caps on and we started this website, which has been, we absolutely love doing it. We get just hearing positive emails from people saying, I wish I had have known this advice 10 years ago when I started nursing or when I started driving trucks for a living, and just being able to help give people tips on how to live a happier, healthier life and be able to sleep during the day and how to meal prep properly. So, yeah, we run this. It's a blog website, but we've just recently moved into Instagram, which I'm learning about. And also into YouTube and Pinterest as well. So we're trying to get lots of platforms and trying to resonate with whoever's on different platforms to help where we can.
What's the most common challenge that someone messages you about? Like, what is their challenge?
Generally, it's a night shift worker who can't sleep or who struggle with weight. They're probably our two biggest things we get.
And what are the common stories that you hear? What's the pattern of tale that they're communicating to you?
Generally, it sort of all couples into one. It rolls into a ball. So they're not sleeping well during the day or the night. So therefore, they're lacking the motivation to exercise, lacking the motivation to meal prep. So therefore, they're relying on the vending machine or they're relying on the service station across the road in order to eat, and then they're feeling bloated or they're feeling awful during the shift because they've eaten the wrong foods, and then they get home and the cycle just sort of repeats itself. So they like to get out of that rut. So they often come to advice for that. And then for sleeping during the day, there seems to be this vibe when you walk into the tea room, particularly I experienced, when you get to work and there's this competition about how little sleep you've had. And the people who have the less sleep are sort of the champions. You've slept a lot, haha, like it's great. You're going to be able to, work in an emergency department for the next 8 hours well, and you do a good job. So it's this, I think it's terrible. And I always like to now say, oh, actually, who slept the most? Let's reward them. So that's probably, yeah.
And night workers tend to be nurses. You said truck drivers, nurses, anyone else, any other kind of
emergency service, all emergency services pretty much, factory workers, call centres. And then there's things probably you don't think about like cleaning services, even home help overnight, the 24-hour home help, nursing homes, Yeah.
Got it. And so generally speaking, when are they starting their shift and when are they ending their shift? And when are they going to sleep and when are they waking up?
It's very broad. So depending on the profession and where you're working. So for me, for example, we did 10-hour shifts. So we might start, this is night shift. So start at 9 p.m., and finish at 7. But then there's some people who work commonly in America. I know nurses do 12-hour shifts. So they'll start from 7 till 7. But then we often get truck drivers, for example. We've got a nice little truck driver community that they start a bit later, so 11 o'clock, and then they won't finish till 9 a.m.
I see. And
generally before midnight, a night shift would start.
Yeah. Okay. And so you mentioned a few things there, like they're eating at gas stations or they're not motivated to eat well or exercise, I think you shared. So what do they tend to do if someone's at home, they're going home in the daylight hours, for example? Their shift is ending in daylight hours, they're getting home. What do they do? Like how long after they get home do they then sleep? Do they exercise first? Do they eat? Do they have a beer or a wine at 9 o'clock in the morning for breakfast and then go to sleep? Like what are they doing? Very
broad again. I know where I work in emergency, it's a very stressful place. So I know that it's a common theme to hear people getting home after a night shift, literally walking in the door, putting their bag down. They open a beer or wine or whatever is a stress relief beverage, I guess, for them. And they sit outside in their backyard and they may have 1 or 2 drinks there. And then they find that helps them sleep, which we'll probably get to later about the sleeping element of alcohol. So that could be one party. And then there's another party that might finish work and exercise immediately because they've got kids and can't exercise in the afternoon because it's school pickup. So does that affect their sleep? Don't know if they're exercising too close before bedtime. Some people it does, some people it doesn't. I know for me personally, when I get home from a shift, I like to be in bed pretty much within an hour and a half of getting home. I slide on my blue light blocking glasses, have a little bit of tiny bit of breakfast because I think I start getting stomach pains with hunger pains at about 11:30, like in the morning. And I don't need that to be, to wake me up. So lots of different approaches, I think, that people have to night shift. And do people sometimes turn to alcohol as a stress relief? I think they do. It's common. One of the other habits that night shift workers, I think, I commonly read and hear about is even across the road from us at the hospitals, there was this beautiful cafe that used to sell alcohol 24 hours a day. And this was the favourite cafe of most of the night shift workers because they sold alcohol, which, at the time when I was younger and I was a nurse, so you'd hope I'd know a little bit about my health. But as I'm learning more, you sort of want to get in with the trend of that's what people are doing. This is great. What other cafe serves alcohol 24 hours a day? It's a bit novelty. It's a bit fun. Let's order a glass of champagne to celebrate that we've finished nights. But now the more as I'm getting older and learning a little bit more, I realize that I not only can drive home, I'm pretty hopeless when I get home informing, talking to my husband about my shift because I'm not very clear-headed and I'm not sleeping very well. So lots of different approaches.
Yeah, I want to touch on what you mentioned initially, whereas folks come home and then they have a drink, which helps them to go to sleep. So I can say confidently that while many of those folks who are having an end of shift drink probably do fall asleep quite quickly when they want to after they've had their drink, the quality of their sleep is going to be severely compromised. Ironically, I tell people who don't do night shift work, who are wanting to sleep better, I say you're better off having a beer or a wine with breakfast than you are at dinner time, because at least then you've got all of the daytime, like good 12 hours, 16 hours to get the toxins from alcohol out of your system, which would then enable you to sleep naturally. Because when we drink alcohol, the toxins really disrupt us, and our liver goes to work and our body's going to work to get rid of those toxins and to process the alcohol at a time when we really want the body to be relaxing, in deep restorative sleep. Like I said, ironically, I guess night shift workers are taking me up on that advice and saying,
yes,
"Oh, okay, cool,
literally,
cool. I'm better off having a drink with breakfast." But it only works if you're going to stay up during the day. It doesn't work if you're then going to go to sleep, right? So, what's the correct way to do this? Like, I kind of feel for them. I do feel for night shift workers. In fact, as you were sharing the story, I was thinking, man, I feel a bit guilty because I've got all these challenges in my life, but what you're describing, for me at least, sounds like hell, a hellish situation.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I'm sure the night shift workers listening will be happy you just said that. It's funny, like, well, we're recommending not having alcohol straight when you get home from a shift because it's going to affect your sleep, what you just said. But then you can't really drink before you leave for a shift either. So when are you meant to? So, do you wait for your day off, or they do your 90-day class and they try to give up, or they get into dry July that's coming up that I'm just about to do as well? And so to be honest, I don't know what the right answer is, but I think not drinking while you're in your run of night shift is the best thing for not only your sleep quality, but personally, I think that if you start to maybe make this positive change, that you're not going to drink when you get home from a night shift and you start breaking those habits, you start breaking these habits, then it might lead to other positive changes in your life as a night shift worker. So you might start thinking in your head, okay, I'm looking after this part of my health, so therefore maybe I'm going to start meal prepping, or I'm going to start doing exercise, because your brain's you've switched the narrative in your head that I'm now starting to look after myself a bit better, and you're just a bit more aware of what the stress that night shift can put on your body, particularly because you're working against that circadian rhythm.
Yeah.
I wish I had the answer.
Well, my answer is stop drinking and just live an alcohol-free lifestyle. But I appreciate that, someone listening to this show is they've either quit and they're feeling great about that, and they're using this as added accountability, I guess. And then the other half are wanting to either reduce or stop entirely. Mm-hmm. So there's a desire to be alcohol-free, or at least to have an alcohol-free lifestyle, whether that's moderation or being completely quit for people who listen here. So I guess if you're a night shift worker, my invitation is to start considering, or just to consider, living an alcohol-free lifestyle, which means just stop it. And, there's plenty of episodes.
I'm quite proud. Sorry to interrupt. I just want to say I'm quite proud of the people in that position, because I understand what the social pull is. I guess I'm proud of the people that are like night shift workers who are listening to this podcast and actually seeking help and support, because it's not something that's commonly spoken about in the night shift community. Someone that is alcohol free and is starting this healthy lifestyle, it's certainly a minority, and I'm proud of the people listening to this podcast wanting to make a change.
Yeah, well, me too.
Yeah.
You mentioned blue light blocking glasses. I know that you're wearing a pair of the blue light blocking glasses from my company, Swanic. How important is blocking blue light, and the timing of when to block blue light important for night shift workers? Like, when would someone wear the glasses? When would they stop using them? Mm-hmm. Can you talk to that?
Yeah. So when I probably discovered blue light blocking glasses about 4 years ago, I'd say, and I personally have noticed a significant difference in how quickly I'm able to fall asleep, particularly after a night. So for my guidance for night shift workers is, if your shift finishes at 7:30 in the morning, I recommend getting in your car, getting home safely, whatever that looks like for you. Once you walk in the door, slide on the bright orange lenses that they might have seen you in, James. Those bright orange ones is the glasses that you want to wear, because it's blocking out most of that blue light, rather than the clear sort of just lightly yellow lenses. You want the darker ones. So keep those glasses on for the duration of your wind down period. So if that's having a herbal chamomile tea, if that's maybe watching half an hour of TV, obviously take them off to shower. But the minute you get after the shower, slide them back on. And when you're brushing your teeth, just leave them on until you've closed your blackout blinds and you sort of replace your blue light blocking glasses with an eye mask. It's a nice little transition for yourself. And I find that really starts helping that melatonin wind down from the minute that you've walked in your front door. The scenario that I gave before about maybe a stressed night shift worker who's seeking some relaxation and opens a beer and it sits in their backyard, it sounds really lovely. And probably when you're doing it, how lovely. You've got your feet elevated, the sun's in your eyes, like it sounds nice. But what it's actually doing to your sleep hormone melatonin is it's telling it that I'm not ready for sleep. I want to be awake. That cortisol gets released and your body sort of starts to live another day, but you've just been awake for 12 hours. So you're working against what your body's actually trying to do. So even if you just did this in a staging process, like if that's what your habit looks like right now, and you're here listening to this, like you obviously are here because you want to make a change. So even if you pulled your seat back and you sat in the shade with your glasses on, did that for a week, and then maybe you switch your beer out for a herbal tea, and then you slowly just start transitioning yourself to you don't actually need to be outside at all after your night shift, and you more stay inside and trying to be in as dark environment as you can.
Yeah, for those who are watching the video version of this episode, I'm just going to put on the Swanwick blue light blocking glasses with the orange lens. So this is my sleep company. And Emma just mentioned, the importance of wearing an orange lens as opposed to a clear lens. So I'm doing a little fashion show here. I got my aviators with the orange lens, and I got my kind of diamond glasses with the orange lens. If you're listening and you want to entertain the idea of getting these, you can go to swanwicksleep.com or just type in my last name into Amazon and they'll come up. But really, really important when sleep is your goal to block as much artificial light as possible to ensure you get a great night's sleep. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say from a wind down perspective, just what you said about the artificial light. I think for us, you're probably after you get home from a shift, you're either going to go to a streaming service such as Netflix, for example, and you might wind down there. And I recommend watching just half an hour of a show, not a full-length movie. I don't think you need that long because sleep should be our priority. And when you're in bed and you're scrolling your phone, if that's what you want to do, fine, but wear your glasses as you're doing it. If you can get technology out of your bedroom, then that could be a great goal to work towards. But in the short term, if you want to scroll your phone, just wear your glasses. And the other thing I've recently discovered is this is also a Swanwick product, is the blue light blocking globe that we now keep in our bathroom, that we just use that sort of as a night light that reduces that blue light again. So instead of turning on the big, your big bathroom light or the hallway light when you need to go to the loo at midday, if you've shut every blind in your house, there might be some residual light so you can see what you're doing, but just slide on those glasses, go to the loo, come back, and then put your eye mask back on again. And I think that's probably the best way to keep that melatonin at bay so it doesn't wake you up.
Is it time to give your liver a break? Have you been punishing your liver for many years with seemingly innocent alcohol use? If so, I invite you to show your liver some love by enjoying natural supplements from my supplements company, Swan Vitality. The Swan Vitality Liver Cleanse contains my own concentrated formula of powerful natural antioxidants scientifically designed to cleanse the liver and support blood circulation. Just take 3 capsules every day with your evening meal with a half glass of water, and you will love the results you will see and feel. Swan Vitality is 100% natural, safe, and effective. To get started on your Swan Vitality journey, I'm inviting you to enjoy 15% off your first order. Just go to swanvitality.com and use the code James at checkout. That's swanvitality.com. Use the code James at checkout to trigger your 15% off.
You know, there was an article on CNN.com just yesterday, Emma, and I'll share my screen with you so you can see it. And the headline was "Exposure to any light during sleep linked to obesity, serious health issues, study finds." And it goes on to explain that even dim light can disrupt sleep. And exposure to any amount of light during the sleep period was correlated with a higher prevalence of diabetes, obesity, and hypertension in both older men and women. And then the senior author of this study, who's the chief of sleep medicine at Northwestern University, said that people should do their best to avoid or minimize the amount of light they are exposed to during sleep. So interesting. I mean,
yeah, this is a scary article for night shift workers who are trying to sleep during the day, who they can't turn off the sun. So therefore, you know, or investing in aids such as blackout blinds, swannies, and it might also be a whole house investment too. If you're living with housemates and suddenly you've put every blind down in the middle of the day, could be a bit awkward for them. So like having that discussion and maybe bringing up that article and saying this is really important to me and my sleep and our relationship, it sort of almost becomes like a family affair when someone's on nights.
Yeah, it's a whole different beast, isn't it? What happens to night shift workers when they have a couple days off, like the weekend off or a midweek off? What happens then? Do you encourage them to return to going to sleep at night and waking up in the morning, or do you encourage them to just keep that structure no matter what?
Our body craves routine. And I know you talk a lot about having a sleep routine. So it doesn't matter if you're sleeping during the day or you're sleeping at night, our body wants us just to stay on a routine. So even though night shift is totally backwards from our normal circadian rhythm, it's what our body is used to. So if you've done 5 nights in a row, you've got 1 or 2 nights off, your body would prefer us if we stayed in the night shift and we rolled over to the next run of nights. That's what it recommends. Even though it doesn't talk to us, that's what it recommends. But in reality, for a lot of us, this isn't real life. Like you might, you've got to share job responsibilities with a partner. You may have to look after kids. Like there might actually be something you need to do. So the the sort of hybrid method that I've sort of thought about is going to sleep at about 4 a.m. and then waking up about 1 p.m. Somewhere around that time that you're still able to get 7-8 hours sleep. That seems to be a hybrid method that works well for people.
What do night shift workers do on their nights off, let's call it a weekend off? It might not necessarily be a weekend, but for argument's sake, let's say a weekend off. Do they now change everything and go out at night and stay out late, or do they try to get to sleep early? Like what tends to happen
on their days off? Well, it sometimes depends how many days off you've got in a row. If you've only got 1 day off, then you might stay because it's just 1 day. But if you've got a week off in between, such as I know that if you work in the fire service, they have four days off, like four on, 4 on. So that could be a bit awkward for them in terms of what they do. I guess it's personal preference and other responsibilities you've got. Yeah.
How do you create or keep or maintain a social life, an active social life, when you're working what I would perceive to be unusual hours? When I worked nights, I worked blocks of nights. So I might have worked 4 in a row. That was sort of the maximum we did. And on that fourth, I guess the 5th day, sort of when you come home and
I got home at 8:00 and I slept till 1, or I can't go to bed late, like can't sleep over later than 1 because I've got to get my body back into a normal rhythm because I'm often going back onto a day shift. So in that afternoon, I like to have something planned for myself that I can't miss. So it's either something I've paid for, so it could be a gym class, catching up with a friend, getting my hair done, getting your nails done, something that you can't miss. That sort of was my routine. Sorry, I've missed you. What was the question here?
No, that's okay. I'm asking, it sounds challenging to keep a social life, an active social life with people who are on a completely opposite shift time to you.
Yeah. You sort of almost become friends with the people who you're working with. So there was a little Thai place across the road. So we used to just meet up for the people that are on that shift and have a meal together. And then you feel like you're breaking up your night shift with some sort of social life with people who understand your schedule. So everyone's wearing scrubs there. We all understood that no one could drink, and it was just a nice environment to go out with. It can be hard being friends with people who aren't shift workers because they don't understand why you're sleeping during the day and why you can't take that call at 12:30 in the day, why they can't just drop over. So I know people have said to me, you're a high maintenance friend because I sleep during the day, but I think that's a bit unfair. So I think thinking ahead, I know for me, it's been a lot of me being proactive about you can't wait for someone to call you. If you want to catch up with a friend that's not a social shift worker, or they are, you make the effort and go, book in a date that suits you at a time that you're going to be awake, and be proactive in doing it. And then you can't complain that no one sees you because you're being the proactive one.
Yeah, got it. Sounds challenging, but not insurmountable, but challenging.
It's doable.
Yeah.
It's certainly doable, but I know focusing on the biggest thing for me is it always started with sleep. If I don't get enough sleep, then everything else in my night shift life just sort of fell to pieces, that just not motivated to exercise, to cook, to be proactive with your friends. You're a bit moody with your people that you live with. So for me, it absolutely started with sleep, and I guess just bringing it back to alcohol. If I did have maybe that glass of champagne that we celebrated, we might have resuscitated someone and we did something good for the night, we're celebrating that. I know that really impacted my sleep, and in the end, it's not worth it. So I still go and maybe have breakfast with my colleagues, but I'm just going to settle for a soda water or an orange juice, and no one really cares if you don't drink. I think that's the funny thing, and something for us night shift workers to think about, that we often think that because we're in this social environment and we're not drinking, we're going to get judged for it. But I think at the end of the day, people actually don't care. If you come with a good attitude, you're listening, you're just in a good space, that's who people want. They don't really care if you drink or not. I think they very quickly get over the fact that, James isn't drinking. Oh, well, he's not in the round. That's fine, but he's still here and he's got a good attitude. So I think if you are worried about that social pull that I talked about because you don't see your friends that often, I just wouldn't stress about it too much. Like if you're mentally proud of yourself and you're saying to people, I'm not drinking because I'm looking after my health, or I can't sleep as a night shift worker, I've been struggling with my sleep, or I'm want to start exercising and have a clear mind, then if they're true friends, I think they'll be proud of you and support you in that. So it's fun. I think we worry too much about what people actually think, and I think in the end they don't probably care.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier about meal preparation. Have you got any tips on that?
Yeah. So I just a couple of days or the day before I start a night shift, I like to cook 2 or 3 big meals. So maybe that could be, I try to avoid soups because they take a long time to defrost when I get to work, and you don't want to hog a microwave for 10 minutes because no one will like you. Or if it is defrosted, it might spill in your bag. So I sort of stay away from soups. Or if you've got a container that closes properly, then soups are great because your body, it's easily digestible food overnight. So what we sort of recommend from a meal prep perspective is your body likes something that's easily digestible. So raw veggies probably will make you feel a bit nauseated and get stomach bloating, even though they're healthy. I can't eat apples on night shift because it just hurts my stomach. So I guess listening to yourself and what works and what doesn't. Small bite-sized snacks are probably the best thing to actually take on a night shift. So it could be a protein ball, some veggie sticks dipped into some hummus, some Greek yogurt, maybe with a tiny bit of granola, like sort of a couple of mouthfuls, a toasted sandwich. So trying to stay away from really rice, pasta, pizza, even though you might have something, I'll just take that because it's a leftover meal. Try not to eat that big meal overnight because your body is just not used to digesting foods when it's dark. It's based on our circadian rhythm, and your digestive system works the most when the sun's shining, which is very unfortunate for us because we can't eat when the sun's shining because we're asleep. So what we recommend in terms of eating is when you get up from a night shift, try to eat something before it gets dark. So between sort of 5:30 and 8, depending on obviously where you live in the world, but try to share a meal with your family outside. If you can, get a bit of sunlight. That's going to be your biggest meal of the day. And then you probably won't get hungry again, maybe until 1, 2 o'clock if you're well hydrated. And then just some small snacks should satisfy you. But batch cooking works really well for me because I really don't want to think about sometimes what I'm cooking, particularly maybe if I didn't sleep well or, I don't want to have to rely on ordering pizza on a school night, if you like.
Yeah. At the end of a shift, if you're doing a night shift and you're in a hospital and you're a nurse, for example, what kind of food is available then in a hospital at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning?
Jelly and maybe some little tins of fruit. I wouldn't rely on it, is my advice there. There's usually not much, particularly where we work in ED. The food's gone. By midnight, there's nothing left. You might find a little orange juice or a little thing of milk, but generally, like, the kitchen's closed. So, and the cafe's generally closed as well for staff. So the only really thing is the vending machine or the service station.
And the vending machine and the service station aren't really renowned for super healthy organic food that's going to make you feel great.
No. Yeah. But even though it's what you crave. So interesting thing that I've learned throughout this process is when we're tired, our sleep hormones of that leptin and ghrelin, that appetite hormones. So ghrelin, I think of, it growls at you when it's hungry, and leptin tells you when you've eaten enough. So you stop eating. When we're tired, that ghrelin increases and our leptin decreases. So we crave food to give us that energy hit when we're tired. So our body's sending us these really mixed signals that you're hungry, go to that vending machine because you're craving sugar to give you a lift. But in reality, you're not actually hungry, you're just tired. So to overcome that, we recommend water. I know it sounds too simple, but having a drink bottle there in sight, and, even having a competition with your friends that you're going to drink 2 of these bottles or 3 bottles per shift. And I find that significantly helps my energy levels, and I'm not drawn to food. It's sort of the water fills me up.
Yeah, I concur, as I've just bought myself I think it's 1.5 liter bottle of water, and I've strategically placed it on the kitchen bench so I see it every day. And so when I wake up in the morning, I literally neck, skull, chug, whatever you want to call it, whatever the terminology is, close to 1 liter of this water, just bang, just get it down. And it's quite challenging. You kind of feel a little bit at the end of it. Yeah. But I tell you, that's such a great start to the day. I feel so much more energized and clear. And my hunger, compared to if I didn't drink that water, is far down. Like I don't eat now until after 12 p.m.
Yeah.
I have an alarm in my phone that goes off at 12 p.m. that says you can eat now. And so I've kind of trained myself not to eat before noon. And then I have an alarm that goes off at the moment it goes off at 5:30 p.m. It says you've got half an hour left to have your last meal of the day. And so I try to have my dinner as quickly as I can from 5:30 to try to be finished by 6, because I go to sleep at 9. So that gives my body 3 hours of rest of no food from 6 until 9, which is the optimal amount of time to, allow your body to digest the food, so that when you finally do go to sleep, you get into that deep restorative phase of sleep and the sleep quality is vastly improved. So there's little kind of habitual hacks that you can do by investing in a strategic bottle, and looking at that bottle and thinking about water and seeing it in first thing in the morning and challenging yourself, or having a fun little game, as you mentioned, having a bet with people who could drink more water. That stuff really does help, doesn't it? Energy, clarity, focus, and most importantly, sleep.
I often got caught out that you're in an air-conditioned place for 12 hours, you forgot to drink, you get home and you're like feeling so parched. So then you might drink 2 liters in it just right before you go to sleep. And then 3 hours later, you need to go to the bathroom. And then your melatonin's awake because you didn't wear your glasses and you've got all the blinds open. And it's a bad sort of cycle to get into. And I think a simple change is just, like you said, maybe when a night shift worker wakes up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, have that 2 liters, within the first hour of waking up, and then start that mental clarity earlier. So you're just more hydrated as you get into the shift, rather than having to scull it when you get home. Yeah.
Your website is called theothershift.com, and I'm looking at it here now, and there's some great articles there. Night shift worker resume guide, structure, style, and content needed to get noticed. How do I relax before a night shift? Find your Zen now. Night shift stress management, 20 ways to cool your jets. And I can see it looks like your husband is there rocking a pair of our blue light blocking glasses. Swannies.
He loves them.
Emma, thank you so much for sharing what it's like to be a shift worker and for your guidance around how to handle that. I have a newfound respect, I must say, for all shift workers. It's one of those things where kind of flippantly gone, oh yeah, that would suck. But now that you're talking through it, at least for my lifestyle, I would find that particularly challenging. So thank you for the amazing work that you do, and thank you to all shift workers for the amazing work that you do as well.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much for having me on. It's funny, my final thing is, despite, like you just said, it would be challenging. Like you sound like you're a man of routine with your eating and what your routine before bed. And I think night shift workers can definitely pick up on some of the things that you've said. That eating before going to sleep can be challenging, but certainly the light and the noise and the right temperature in your bedroom and sort of developing your own routine is certainly something that's possible, even if you work the nights and you work these odd hours to try and improve your sleep. So it took me a long while to realize that I'm not the victim here, and I can actually take some initiative with my own health as a night shift worker, because often it's something that you can't avoid it if it's part of your job. So I think, there's certainly some changes that can be made despite working odd hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very much. So yes, to you, the listener, thank you so much for being here. The website is theothershift.com. Swanwick Sleep, I run a weekly webinar where I give live sleep training and advice. You can go to go.swanwicksleep.com/sleep webinar and register there. And I talk about how to relieve stress and reduce anxiety and coach people online on a live free call on how to sleep better. That's go.swanwicksleep.com/sleep webinar. If you enjoyed this episode, would you please share it with someone? Maybe you know a night shift worker. Just go into your phone right now and click on the button that says share and text it to them, or WhatsApp it to them, or email it to them. Anyone who you think might benefit from this, please do pass it on. Thank you so much to our guest, Emma Smith, and to you, the listener. We'll catch you on the next one. Here are 5 ways I can support you on your health journey.
Number one, the Better AF group support. You can go to alcoholfreelifestyle.com/betteraf. That is group virtual coaching to help you to stop drinking. The YouTube channel at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/YouTube. The book, Alcohol Freedom Formula, can be found at alcoholfreelifestyle.com/guide. My liver cleanse from my supplements company, Swan Vitality, at swanvitality.com. And protect your eyes from screens by wearing a pair of Swannies blue light blocking glasses from my sleep company, Swanic Sleep. You can find that at swannies.com. Catch you on the next one.